That's like the first one they've had over.
All right, it is 9:30. We'll go ahead and get started with our work session this morning for our 10 o'clock council meeting. First item on the agenda is approval of monthly bills. There were no changes. Any questions? All right, approval of minutes. No changes. Any questions? All right, resolutions. Resolution 23-268, adopt FY 2024 budget for landfill fund. Do you want me to just read through all these? And, are there any changes?
No changes.
Okay. So that was A through E. There were no changes to any of those. Any questions on those? All right, resolution 23-273, approved River Clay Arts Festival to be held October 20th through 22nd, 2023.
Yes, it's my understanding this is the same configuration as last year, what they've done in previous years. And I believe there's will be a representative from that group.
Okay. All right, any questions? All right, resolution 23-274, authorize mayor to accept Horton House gift bill of sale.
There's no changes. We'll prepare a resolution for the next meeting. Authorize y'all, if you wish to transfer it to COA.
Okay.
Since that's what the attorney for Horton found stated, they would be okay.
Okay. All right, resolution 23-275, approved department space realignment.
Yes, sir, there is a change. I'd like to ask that we postpone this for now. Council deserves, as does the minutes, to hear information about the lease agreement that's in place and our ability to be able to lease that building. That's just one piece of all that we're presenting, but we would like to have that right. And we don't have that information right now. So
About the sublease?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so do we want to table or remove?
Table.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'd have to vote to table it in the meeting. Okay. All right, any questions, comments? All right, resolution 23-276, approve expense for replacement of HVAC unit at Fire Department Training Center. Any changes? Any questions? All right, resolution 23-277, approve CDG Incorporated Professional Consulting Services for DYS proposed facilities.
There's no changes I'm aware of.
All right, any questions? All right, resolution 23-278, approve Morgan County Emergency Management Communications District Contract FY 24, and that was an addition.
Yes. My understanding, the police chief, which that department has got the most responsibility as far as the cost of this, is fine with it. Is that correct, chief?
Yes.
But it's an annual contract we've had for years. It's it adjusts the amount we pay. It's our contract with the 911.
Okay.
Emergency, fire and police.
Any questions? Resolution 23-279, accept All Stars Parent Grant from Child Trust Fund. Alan?
Alan Stover, Community Development Department. As the council is probably aware, we have had a long-standing partnership with Children's Trust Fund over the past 15, 20 years to provide services to at-risk youth and their parents. This is a new grant that we're applying for. It's a little different than what we've applied for in the past. It actually is a no-match grant. You know, Mr. Watkins and Ms. Shackelford are here if you'd like some details exactly what the grant is, but it is a no-match grant with Children's Trust Fund.
All right, any questions? Thanks, Alan. Ordinance's first reading, ordinance 23-4569, adopt FY 2024 general fund budget. There were no changes, and you had requested that we consider a double vote.
Just for the timing of it, being that September 30th is right around the corner, so.
Okay. All right, any questions? Ordinances, ordinance 234567, approve revised urban forestry ordinance, tree board.
There's no change.
All right, any questions? Ordinance 234568, approve conveyance of parcel 6-3 to Alabama Community College System for construction of dance studio and training center.
No change. It'll go to the planning commission hopefully tomorrow for their review also.
Okay, any questions? And then we had a mayoral appointment of Kenneth Kirkland to the Ambulance Regulatory Board, term expiring August 19th, 2027. No changes and no vote. Did we have Herman, there was gonna be a presentation for the,
Community.
The grant.
Community, she's here.
okay. What, and we can do that at the beginning, or how long do you think that would take?
We don't have a formal presentation. The draft was sent over this morning. It was our understanding it was gonna be kind of an informal working session to kind of go over any questions. I can
That-
kind of maybe an outline.
That's fine. Would you rather do that now before the 10 o'clock meeting or wait until the 10 o'clock meeting? I don't know if other people were gonna come, like Danielle probably.
I know John is coming, so maybe.
Let's just wait till 10
Yeah.
then, okay. All right, we'll start the meeting with that portion because I know the purpose of that is if we have questions, y'all can kind of tell us where you are in the process, and then we would look at actually having a special called meeting potentially before our meeting next week to look at that grant. So that was kind of the process
Yeah,
we were
we
gonna
got that
follow.
this morning and we'll send it out to the council.
Okay. All right, anything else? All right, we will get started at 10 o'clock. Pepper. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster's.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike. Pepper.
Aye.
Check 10385 is approved 4-1, and then the rest of the monthly bills.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster's.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike. Pepper.
Aye.
The rest of the August 2023 monthly bills are approved 5-0. Approval of minutes, we'll take these together.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster's.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike. Pepper.
Aye.
Minutes are approved 5-0. Resolutions, Resolution 23-268, adopt FY 2024 budget for landfill fund. And Kyle, if you just,
Yeah.
all these, whatever you want to talk about.
So, last Monday, we presented formally, specifically the general fund, which will be later, and a lot of the others, some high points. I won't go through all the details again, but if there's any questions as it relates to, these next couple resolutions, feel free to ask and we can go through them.
We'll have comments, I don't know if about questions on the general fund, but these I do not, so I wouldn't make those comments unless we ended up having a vote on that today, so.
So moved.
That we'll vote on these individually, but Resolution 23-268 is for the landfill fund, and we have a motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster's.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike. Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-268 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23-269, adopt FY 2024 budget for Alabama Capital Improvements Trust Fund.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster's.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike. Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-269 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23-270, adopt FY 2024 budgets for other governmental funds.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster's.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike. Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-270 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23-271, adopt FY 2024 budget for gas tax
So
funds.
moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster's.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike. Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-271 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23-272, authorize the mayor to enter into FY 2024 community service and economic development contracts.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pike,
Oh, second.
second by Mr. Pepper. Any discussion?
I just have, and these address our appropriations, so
Yeah.
I just, I have a few concerns. We had presentations a few days ago with the Best and Brightest, and we had Hands Across Decatur. And we're awarding $500,000 here to the Best and the Brightest, and of course, I've not supported that in the past, and I won't support it today. But I think it's kind of interesting that we do have a homeless issue here in Decatur, and we did not address that situation in any way in this, in these appropriations. I do think that, you know, we had two presentations, and again, I said that, but we, in my opinion, we should have addressed that as much, or not as dollar-wise as much, but in a significant amount to sort of relieve our homeless situation and the one agency that's helping that. I will not support some of these today. I won't support, I don't know if we just, I just would do it as a whole.
I think we'll do it as a whole, but address the ones you.
Okay, and of course, I've said it many times before. In, I want to say 2006, we had an agreement that when we went to the bond market, the Princess Theater Board came to us, and I realize it's a different board now, but came to us and the Carnegie as well, and they simply said that if we would do their issues in the bond issue or take care of their projects in the bond issue, that they would never come back to us with for an appropriation, and they would do the debt service on that bond. At the end of that term, at the very beginning of the next term, they came back and they asked for an appropriation again, and they did not take care of the debt service beyond that. So it's difficult for me and again, some of you guys don't have the historical objective that I do, but it's difficult for me to support these projects when we've given, through resolution, when we've been asked to do things and we've done our end of it and they've not lived up to their end of it. So it's difficult for me to support the Princess, even though I know it's a city operation and that we have obligations to that, but for the appropriations for this Carnegie and the Princess, I will not support those today, nor the Best and Brightest.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Jackson. Any other discussion on these?
So I guess if we have to take this as a whole, then I will vote no on it, and I support the others.
Yeah, I understand.
Pretty collectively.
I would actually agree with a lot of what Mr. Jackson said, and it's one of the reasons I'm personally hesitant to award new appropriations. Is what happens, in my opinion, and I think he laid it out correctly, is that once you get a city appropriation or an appropriation from any entity, you become dependent on that. And so if we don't fund the Princess, I don't know if operations would be able to continue there or not. According to the financials, it looks like they wouldn't. And so once we start to feed that revenue, that becomes something that is something that those groups have to have. So I share those concerns, and that is one reason I would be hesitant to award new ones, although I think there probably are worthy causes out there. There are all over the city that do not receive and really don't even apply for appropriations.
And I agree with that, but let me add that at that particular time, they brought to us that they were going to go out and solicit the donations from entities that would actually help them to move forward. And that's, I don't know if they didn't try to do that, it didn't happen, but it didn't happen. So, so again, if it just didn't work out, I couldn't say that, but at this point, I can't move forward with that.
Sure. All right, any other discussion?
Are we not able to vote on this separately? Is there any objection to that? I mean,
If you don't like them, vote no. I
okay.
mean, I guess it's
That's-
like anything, I would say in the budget itself, there are things I would disagree with, but as a whole, I would support it. So if there's we have two, do you want to pull them out separately?
I would like to pull some of
All
them.
right, we
out
have
separately.
two that want to do that. Is there a third that would want to do that? All right, we'll move forward with as it is. We do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-272 is approved 4-1. Resolution 23-273, approved River Clay Arts Festival to be held October 20th through 22nd, 2023. Chris?
Yes, this is just the approval, of course, of the Arts Festival. The configuration will be, the way it'll be set up will be much the same as previous years. It's just approval to use City Hall grounds for that. And
So
I-
moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-273 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23-274, authorize mayor to accept Horton House gift bill of sale.
There's no change. Ken's here, but my understanding is that they're fine with us going ahead. If y'all vote to accept this, convey it pretty soon to CODA.
Okay.
That's the idea.
All right.
Right, Ken?
Do have a motion by Mr. Pike,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
So what is the process, Herman, as far as conveying it to CODA? I think there's some concern there. Once we get it, we can just convey it right over
We'll,
to CODA.
we'll bring back a resolution at your next meeting to authorize us to gift it to CODA.
Okay,
Yes.
good deal.
No, if we don't want to delay getting it to them.
Okay. You good with that mistake?
No restriction,
Ma'am?
as long as there's no restriction in the
Okay.
transfer.
I think we would not want there to be any, we want you to fully have I mean, that's our goal, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what we want.
Okay.
We're good.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call?
Wagner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Abstain.
Resolution 23-274 is approved 4-0 with one abstention. Resolution 23-275, approved department space realignment, and we did have a request to table this.
I'll make a motion to table.
All right, we have a motion to table by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion on the tabling? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Aye. Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-275 is tabled, vote of 5-0. Resolution 23-276, approve expense for replacement of HVAC unit at Fire Department Training Center.
Tracy Thornton Fire Department. This is a HVAC unit we have on the PD end that services the polygraph room and a couple other classrooms and hallway down there.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pike, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
Chief, let me ask you one question, and it's related to HVAC, but not necessarily this one. When we talked, I think it was the last meeting, we talked about Station 4, and we talked about the potential or the possibility that there was black mold in the ductwork there. And we had not bid that out, and our purchasing manager actually told us that it was under $2,000. Can we replace all the ductwork that needs to be replaced in that building for less than $2,000?
It wasn't gonna be replaced, it was gonna be cleaned.
Oh, it's gonna be cleaned.
Yes,
Yeah, it was Surf Pro.
Okay.
Servpro.
All right. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
That answer, thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Aye. Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-276, approved 5-0. Resolution 23-277, approved CDG Incorporated Professional Consulting Services for DYS proposed facilities.
Right, Limzell Johnson, Decatur Youth Services, Brandon Watkins, Director. This is some preliminary before the construction, the $10 million that's been allotted to build or for the construction and architecture work with framework architectures. This is something that has to be done before that, so we are doing the professional consulting services with CDG. That's what this is for, and the proposed amount is $84,062. That is inclusive of the environment assessment, topographical survey, civil site design, the NPDES permit, construction, and also some possible inspections. I believe we got with Carl in just reference to what's needed for that, and they're working together to make that happen.
All right.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pike.
Second.
Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
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 Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-277 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23-278, approved Morgan County Emergency Management Communications District contract for FY24.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. Chief, you wanna?
Good morning, Chief Pena, Decatur Police Department. Just an annual contract MOU with them that we have every year. Prices do go up just a little bit each year, whereas it did every entity that goes into 911.
All right, any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
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 Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-278 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23-279, accept All-Star Parent Grant from Child Trust Fund.
Yes, Alan Stover, Community Development Manager for the City of Decatur. This is a grant with Children's Trust Fund. As I said in the work session, we've had a history of partnering with Children's Trust Fund for years to provide assistance for at-risk youth and their parents. This is a new grant, but it is a no-match grant, so we're requesting your approval to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
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 Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23-279 is approved 5-0. Next, we have ordinances first reading. Ordinance 23-4569, adopt FY24 general fund budget.
Yeah, so the general fund budget, just a couple highlights I'll note. Total budget is $91.1 million. Significant increases in revenues in our sales and use tax, SSUT, simplified seller's use tax, the lodging tax with the increase in rate, and then the interest earnings with relation to increase in interest rate as well. Highlights from a payroll side, There are market adjustments for the fire department only, and then 3% for all employees included. And then also some of the minor capital in there is to continue the life cycling of our city fleet, as well as Daniel's group with relation to garbage trucks and loader trucks. Other than that, I will kind of open the floor for any conversation or comments, and then I'd ask for immediate consideration if possible.
I'll make a motion for immediate consideration.
Mr. Pepper has made a motion for immediate consideration.
Second.
Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion on the immediate consideration?
Let me say this, and I might as well say it at immediate consideration. I think that anybody who is old enough, I won't say anybody, but most people who are old enough to remember September 11th of 2001 pretty much remember where they were at that particular time. And where I was that morning was at the Country Inn and Suites on the Beltline, where we were having budget discussions, and we were in the second day of those discussions. And what we typically did was we would go through, start at 8 o'clock that morning, go until noon, take a lunch break, come back until 5. Sometimes we would go home for dinner and come back again, or we just start out early the next morning. But we did that for a week, and that was the entire council body. And I think the irony of what happened was this budget was presented on September 11th last week for the first time. Well, to us as a body for the first time. I realized that it was on the website, that it had been on there for several weeks, but looking at something and reading the numbers don't actually delve into what those numbers are comprised of. And I think that it's important to realize that, well, from my perspective, that there's no way possible for us to know what's going into a $91.1 million budget when we look at it from a surfacey point of view in 33 minutes. I think that was the time that we spent on it, was 33 minutes. So it's difficult for me. I find it difficult for me as a person to say that I could do my household budget, which is much less than $91.1 million in 33 minutes. So it's difficult for me to say that I know that I can't say everything that's in the budget, or I've gone through everything that's in the budget. And I feel that this council is in the same situation that I'm in. They can't say what's in the budget. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that we spent so much in the last year out of the unassigned fund balance. I think that's an indicator of us adopting a budget like this. So while I will not stand in the way of the immediate consideration, if this is the move that the council wants to make, I will not support this budget today.
All right, any other discussion on the immediate consideration motion? All right, roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Aye. Pepper.
Aye.
All right, the immediate consideration is approved 5-0. Now we'll take up the actual ordinance 234569, adopt FY 2024 general fund budget.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? I have a few points. One, I get what you're saying, and I can't put my household budget together in 33 minutes, but I'm actually the one putting it together. I mean, I worked at a very large organization where we had hired a CFO and a finance team to do things like accounting and put together budgets, and that was their job, and that's actually what we have now. So to compare it to a household budget is not apples to apples, because I'm not hiring someone to put my household budget together. I'm actually doing it. So in this case, we do have a full finance department that is actually building the budget to present to us. So that I would say that. The other is, you know, I do think this budget is a big dollar amount, and I think there's a couple of things we should point out. One is there's a significant amount of revenue, and I pointed this out last week, that we will not see again because it has to do with our cash, and we have a very large cash balance that we're making a lot more money on because of interest rates, and we hope that cash balance will be mostly gone. It's been set aside mostly for projects. So if that's spent in the next year, the following year, we will not have that. Somewhere around, if my math is right, $3-4 million difference from budget to budget.
Just not to confuse things, but
Yeah.
remember, I know you're thinking about ARPA and you're thinking about 3M. Those are not in the general fund's interest.
But the borrowed money is.
They are not either. They are in their own individual accounts.
But they're making more interest.
The interest.
They're making the same amount of interest
Yeah.
across all of our accounts.
Yeah, which is over
But
4%.
in your scenario is correct in the sense that if we are spending down, like we're saying, the cash balance is lower, less interest.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, we are bringing in more revenue, so
But that's a revenue source that will go from here to here.
it could, correct.
Yeah, if we spend the money, which we should.
Correct.
And these investments should produce more revenue. With
Right.
economic impact.
Yes, but we know direct revenue,
Sure, on that line.
we
yes,
can
sir.
say. The other thing is, there's been some questions, so I think the 55.3 million was general fund in 2016 minus Point Mallard. That's different from this year. We're at 91.1 million. With Point Mallard, we take 5 million of revenue from Point Mallard, we're at 86 million. So you're looking at about a $31 million increase in 8 budgets. And so the question I had, and I think others, is, well, where did it all go, right? Like we're filling all that up with city operations for the most part. And the answer is mostly personnel cost. And so if I had to guess on 2016, but if I estimate that we spent 53% of that budget, I went back to 2018, but I don't have 2016. I'm guessing 53% might be a good guess for what we would have spent on personnel based on 2018 through 2023. That would be $29.3 million that we spent on personnel in 2016. Again, not exact, but I think it's pretty close. This year, we'll spend about $52 million. Now, you have to take Point Mallard out, so let's say it's $50 million. I think you said it's about $1.8 million. So that's an increase of $21 million in personnel cost. We have a $31 million increase in revenue. Where did it all go? All but $10 million of it is eaten up with personnel costs. And so when we get presented with market adjustments and everybody says I hate employees and all these things because I voted against these market adjustments, that is my concern. We're outpacing the actual operations with personnel cost from a percentage standpoint. So again, just think about that. $31 million of additional revenue and 21 million or so, close to that, is eaten up with additional personnel costs. That is concerning to me, and I think it should be concerning to us as we move forward. And I think we need to think about it next year when we get another market adjustment proposal. So I have that concern. I've had it for 2 years now. I think I've been fairly consistent in that. But that is a real concern, is all that revenue is eaten up by personnel costs. So
Let me add
yeah.
this, so I wanted to add, and you said that we have people who are paid in the finance department to do that. It's not like in previous years, previous councils, we didn't have people in the finance department and in those departments who were paid, and their responsibility was to grind out a budget for us, just like it's theirs now. But the due diligence that goes into making sure that you know what's going into every line item, that's the difference. And whether he had presented a $200 million budget or a $20 million budget or a $9 million budget, the fact simply remains still that we are not aware of everything that is in that budget. And there's no way to know what's in that budget unless you go through that thing line item by line item. And it's a mute argument, I guess, a mute point just to argue this, but the fact is, because this council is not going to do it. But the fact, very simply, is that there is no better way to understand what our city is going through. And you talked about numbers, and you talked about personnel costs. There's no better way to understand that unless you're going through that line item by line item. Because we have a fiscal responsibility to adopt a budget. And just because, you know, we pay these guys to do it, it's our responsibility. It falls on us as representatives of the city to vote for this budget and to approve this budget.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree with you, except I think maybe I see our role as a little bit different, maybe than you do or others, is that I view our role a lot like a board of directors. We're part-time, we have a CEO, that's the way our structure is, that runs the city. And so I did go through it line item by line item, by the way.
And I guess, and for a person who goes through it line item by line item, the way that we do it individually, it still doesn't tell you what's broken down in that, unless you have the documentation, the background information on every line item. And you have to go through every document, and the department heads have to be in front of you to say, this is why I asked for that. And then you determine whether that's needed in that. Because there can be a lot of waste. And there can be some people who run their budget too tightly for our citizens to get what we actually need. So again, that's where it comes in, where we should have a more of a hands-on role and be there and discuss every item in that agenda. So.
Sure. And again, I think obviously just different opinion on that topic.
You know, the 2016 administration, that would be the previous administration, did meet and go through line by line a couple of times. And then John came into play, Andrieski, whenever we hired a CFO. Ms. Jackson, I don't remember you attending those meetings.
Because what we did at that particular time, it was very surfacing. We did, and you said it right, we did meet a couple of times. We didn't delve into it.
A couple of years.
Yeah, we didn't delve into it the way that it was needed to. And so again, it was almost, it's not much different than this.
You didn't have your picture made with you. You
was
were not a team player.
Well, you know, Mayor, that comes from a person who is the least qualified mayor in our state and in our top 10 cities. So, I mean, you can't, and when you said, well, we won't go into that. But again, the fact very simply was that it was better than it is now, but it was still not, we still didn't delve into every line item the way that we should have. And that was, to me, it was almost a waste of time to do that as well.
And then the personnel cost, we were so far behind that it took a lot to get us caught up to where the market, and a lot of that was done prior to your being here in this administration.
Yeah.
Some of it has been done during your administration, and thank you for this council and what they've done to try to get our departments caught up to the market. But not all of it's on your watch.
I actually probably would not have supported the 2018 market adjustment either, for the exact reasons I haven't supported the last two. And here's the other thing I would say about that, is we are consistently told that you cannot do this in the merit system in public finance in a targeted way. And I would just challenge everybody to go look at what Huntsville is voting on with their personnel. It is very targeted to individual positions. So I just do not buy that at all, that we can't be more targeted and we have to do across the board market adjustments. It's flat out not true.
We've somewhat proven that in the last 2 years, though. I mean,
Yeah.
And let me add one more thing, Mayor. Since 2008, we have completely streamlined this process to where we don't go into our budgets. And again, these guys come in thinking that this is the norm, so I can't blame them for that. They come in and this is pretty much the way that it was done for the last couple of councils. So, you know, this changed, but sometimes change that happens is not necessarily good change, but it becomes the norm. And I think that's where we are now, so.
And I do think, obviously, we do have a responsibility. We're about to vote to approve a very large budget. And I would say this, as I went through the budget, and I think these guys probably say something similar, or you would too. When you have those questions, you're gonna ask the finance department. So I did have a lot of questions. I think I would tell you I had a lot of questions. And so I am digging into that and getting their thoughts. But I see your point. I just have a disagreement on kind of maybe what our role is in that.
I understand.
and department directors have been really, I've not had any that have not answered any questions I had about their particular budget. And Kyle's been a lot of help too.
All right, any other discussion on the general fund? All right, got a motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Todd.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Ordinance 234569 is approved 4-1. Ordinances, ordinance 234567, approved revised urban forestry ordinance tree board.
Well, there's no change. There will be a if y'all approve, be a 5-member board appointed by the city council. And then that board would, any appeal by the citizens of whether a tree should stay or go, would go to the board. And if they're not satisfied with that, they can come to the city council. But that's the way it's set.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
I'll just say this stemmed, I think, from some incidents in the Albany area. I've had a lot of residents reach out in support of this. I know one's here today, just to see this be voted on, but glad to get to this point.
Encourage the council to present some board members and get this thing going, okay?
I do, is it a board member from every district or just from?
No, sir.
Okay. My only comment is I appreciate, there was feedback from residents and appreciate legal getting this together for us to look at, so. And anyone else involved, but I know you guys were, Herman. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters. Jackson.
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Ordinance 234567 is approved 5-0. Ordinance 234568, approval of conveyance of parcel 6-3 to Alabama Community College System for construction of dance studio and training center.
Yeah, I don't have anything added. We've talked, I've shared it, I think, several times, but it's basically, it would be a transfer to the Alabama Community College System. Calhoun, Athens State, and Decatur City Schools would all be participants in using that structure. It's what, about 24,000 square feet.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm glad to see this. I think this is gonna be a great addition to downtown. I know there's been some concern over parking, in particular the handicap parking. I think I mentioned this in the past, but Carl, you're here, and I don't know if Chief Penny's got anything, but there are a few spots right in front of the brick. That's what we've heard a lot of, is handicap parking that are right just to the west of the brick building. I can't remember if there's 3 or 4 right there, but I do think we have an opportunity to put some handicap parking on the street, if that's possible. Just to look at something, so they don't have to walk across the street to the parking deck, back and forth.
Fairly certain most of our downtown blocks at least have 1 or 2 handicap spots.
Yeah. But I do think right there in front, we could fit a couple. The current spots, turn them into handicap.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Abstain.
Todd.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Ordinance 234568 is approved 4-0 with 1 abstention. We have boards and committees, the mayoral appointment of Kenneth Kirkland to the Ambulance Regulatory Board, term expiring August 19th, 2027. We will not have a vote on that, but it's the first term. I completely forgot about the grant discussion at the beginning, so we will take a few minutes and let John, Danielle, Alta, anyone just go ahead and talk about that. I apologize.
Well, y'all got it.
Yes.
Got it in right.
Good morning, Council and Mayor. As we discussed a couple of weeks ago, this is regarding the Department of Transportation Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods program. What we were asked to do is to bring forward a kind of guideline or application ALTA has put together. We had a really great community advisory committee that we put together, and I can give you guys a list about that as well. So what I would like to do today is have ALTA come up and give us kind of an overview of the work that they have been working on, and then if you guys have questions or concerns that we need to address directly today, we can, or if we need to go and you guys go back and look at it and then we address them later, we can as well. But we're on a quick timeline, so I know some of the questions that were asked was the disadvantaged communities. what the definition of that was, and we are working on a couple of letters that verify that we only have to meet one, which was A, so we'll have that available for you as well. So I'd like Sarah to come up and just walk you through all of the great work that they've been doing over the last really week. They've had a lot of late nights trying to get all of this completed. So Sarah, if you would come up, and she's got the presentation, I guess, over here, and you should have a printed document as well.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you. Just want to thank the council for all of your time and attention to this matter, and also to the public who've come out today, and to everyone who's been part of this application. It's taken a lot of work from a lot of different stakeholders in the community, so I just want to thank everyone. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview. My name is Sarah Kovacic. I'm with Alta Planning and Design, and we've been working closely with our steering committee on this application. So we are submitting on the 27th, so we look forward to your comments, and we're here to answer any questions. So this is, I'll kind of just go through the application. It's about 22 pages. This is the first kind of intro we'll go over today. So this is the Dr. Bill Sims Hike Bikeway on the Singing River Trail. And the big picture of this grant application is that we're going to be extending the Dr. Bill Sims Trail and improving the section that's along the riverfront, and we'll be extending it to Ingalls Harbor and then bringing it through the Old Town community, ending at Ben Davis Elementary. So that's kind of the big picture of the route. We can go to the next page. And the next page. So this is kind of a quick snapshot, about 9.5 miles. The first couple of pages go through about the project, and you'll see that we're highlighting that we're going to be fixing some barriers and burdens, specifically related to transportation. So you'll see a lot where we're talking about fixing the crossing at Oak Street and Highway 20 and improving that crossing, also improving the railroad bridge crossing at the end of Railroad Street, and kind of helping connect the Old Town community into Decatur. So there's a lot about, we have to talk a lot about how we're reconnecting these communities into Decatur. So you'll see a lot of emphasis on that. And the big picture goal of this project is really quality of life, giving folks safe transportation options, connecting folks throughout Decatur to riverside destinations, bringing them to jobs, and also retaining the workforce. So we can go to the next slide. We talk a little bit about Old Town history, feature some old photos of Vine Street and how it was different before the urban renewal time period, and how when Highway 20 came in, it became a dividing facility. And we talked a little bit about project goals and what the project will accomplish. Then on the next page, this shows you the route, like I described, starting on the right side at Point Mallard Park, and we're providing a lot of new improvements to the Dr. Bill Sims Trail and creating safer walking and biking facilities, and then extending to Ingalls Harbor, and then, like I said, going down through Old Town. So you've got about 9.5 miles of a walking, bicycling facility that's safe for all residents, and folks can get to everyday destinations and all of the attractions on the riverfront. So that's kind of the big picture of the project. And then we can go to the next page. So the grant is going to be judged by the Department of Transportation based upon how we're able to meet certain merit criteria. So on these next couple of pages, we provide documentation about how this project will accomplish their various metrics. So you'll see equity and environmental justice here on this first page. And like Danielle said, we just need to meet one of the criteria, and that is that the project falls within the climate and environmental justice screening tools disadvantaged communities, and it does. So that's where we provide a table of the metrics and how we're meeting that criteria. Then on the next page, talk about access and connectivity, providing folks who do not have access to a vehicle to active transportation facilities. There are about over 500 households that we would touch that do not have access to a vehicle. So this is a very important facility. On the next page, we go through about the suitability, that this is something that's going to be safe for folks. That rendering on the top right is a separated walking and biking facility on the Dr. Bill Sims Trail. And then on the bottom right features all the destinations that this trail will reach. And then on the next page, we talk about how there's been a lot of community support for trail projects for the Dr. Bill Sims Trail, and how the One Decatur Comprehensive Plan supports this effort. Then we go through equitable development, how this will support workforce development, and improving Old Town's community and supporting their current efforts they have in place. And then the next page, talk about how this will, not only will this be a trail, but this will also incorporate streetscape improvements, landscaping, so that will all help with reducing the heat, or urban heat island effect. And then going to the next page, we focus on local workforce development and feature some local initiatives, local regional and local initiatives within Decatur. And then on the next page, this is mainly a section that goes through how the project, how we're familiar with the permits that are required, and that we don't anticipate any major risks to the project. And then there's a schedule in the bottom right. So that's a quick overview. We look forward to your comments. We are going to be making some adjustments to the narrative. Our steering committee is now reviewing it, so we do anticipate that we'll have a revised draft probably Wednesday, Thursday.
Is the total pool $1 billion over 5 years, or way more than that? Do you know?
I have to look it up. But yeah, 3.65.
But it's a 5-year kind of build, or all at once?
Just
Okay.
1 year.
Okay.
Are there any new, are there any new trails being added to this, or is it just crossings and things of that nature?
Yeah, there would be new trails, particularly from 72 to Ingalls Harbor, and then from there south into Old Town.
Okay.
Yep, and then on the east side, it would be more improvements to the Dr. Bilson's Trail.
My biggest concern with this the whole time has been what's in the NOFA. Is it, you know,
Yep.
do we just have to check this box, or do we have to check all of these boxes? So will that be something readily available?
Yes, yeah, we have
So-
in writing from the Reconnecting Communities program that it's just one of those 4 criteria, and we do satisfy point A by being within the climate and environmental justice screening tool as a disadvantaged community. So,
Do we know the total application size yet? How
about
much?
16 million,
Okay.
and there's no match required because we're nearly completely within this disadvantaged community.
Because we meet that check one box, we can't get audited 20 years later, no 16 million.
Right.
They're not gonna
Yeah.
commit that. Yeah, never mind. All right, any questions? John, anything? Danielle? Yeah, sure.
Thanks to everyone.
I do have one other Alta question. I'm sorry. Is Alta working with any other municipality in the state on this grant?
No.
Okay.
John Cavacci, Executive Director of the Singing River Trail. I just wanted to really follow up on what Danielle and Sarah had to say about the connectivity part of this. I think one of the things you have to look at, not just from the environmental or the community building, but also the idea of, we're also in partnership with John Joseph and the E-Center, working with Entrepreneurial Growth and Development. We're working with Kelly Thomas. We're working with Scottsboro Boys and what they're trying to do. And I think what you're seeing collaboration. For the last 4 weeks now, or 3 weeks, we've been meeting for 2 hours at a time on Thursday at 10 o'clock where people have busy schedules and they make the time to come and do this. And I think the thing that I want to make sure you're clear on is that when David Breland stands up and says, I've had 1,000 meetings in my lifetime and this is probably the best one I've ever had, was meaningful for everyone in that room. That's the kind of thing I think you're tapping into. There's a lot of passion and there's a lot of productivity that's occurring with this grant. I just wanted to let you know that from a trail perspective, great question. Will there be new trail? Yes. But also don't underestimate the investment in what you've already put a lot of effort into. And I think that's key, is you polish it up and you give an opportunity for people to use it. In some areas it's hard to see where it is. And then in other areas like Old Town, there's absolutely no trail. And I think that's something that has to be rectified. That's something that has to be connected to. Because what I see people trying to do with the Scottsboro Boys, with the Pocket Park, with what's going on in Ingalls Harbor, and what's going on at Rhodes Ferry, and what's going on potentially with Libby Patrick, is you're building all of the assets. When you connect those assets, that's where you really make a big difference in people's lives. So just wanted to add that to what they had to say. Thank you.
Thanks, John. And the deadline is for application?
September 28th is the deadline, but we've committed to September 27th, so there's no issues.
Okay, and so we would likely look at maybe scheduling something next week prior to that to approve the grant application. So,
Yep, we shall meet next Monday.
yeah, we'll look at a good time for that. All right, any other questions anybody has on this? All right, guess I gotta read when our next meeting is. Next council work session will be held next week, September 25th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Next regular council meeting will be held on October 2nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. Anything else from directors? Mayor?
No, sir.
Anything else from council? All right, we're adjourned. Thanks.